Hello. Good afternoon. This is my second day of my, actually it's really the third day. Yesterday I live streamed, so I didn't actually make a project, but I worked on using things up. So today's my third day of my Use What You've Got challenge. And I wanted to make a little book out of these little envelopes that I have. So this is what we're going to make, is this little book. And what happened is that I got a whole box of these little, there's not quite a coin envelope, but they are a coin envelope. They're real cute. But I have a whole box of them, so I wanted to use them. And you could do this with any envelope. I mean, any envelope that you have, this book could be made to that size. You just have to make the book the size to fit your envelopes. Now, I have been working on painty paper, so I took these white envelopes and I painted a bunch of them on the jelly plate. They don't have to be painted. They could be painted just or collaged. They could be made out of book paper, whatever you want to do. But this is, we're going to make this little envelope book. Now, my thought on this is that it will be real cute to tuck. You could tuck receipts in it. You could tuck coupons in it. You could tuck little notes in it. You can put pictures on the pages. There's plenty of room. There's 1/8 of an inch of space between, if you can see each envelope, so that you've got some room to fill them up. And we're just going to get started with this. Now, you're going to need some things. I'm going to use my little cutter here. And we're going to start with a piece of, oh heavens, I've lost my words. This is just a cereal box, as you can tell, and I need to straighten up one end of it. Okay, where's the bend? There it is. I just want to straighten this up so that I can cut it off, cut it square. Now, I've also got to get rid of this other flap so that it'll fit in my cutter. Oh good, that didn't cut. Doesn't really matter, I just need to get it out of the way. Now this end is square, so I want to square up another side. That gives me 2 square sides, so I can now measure and figure out what I need to do. And I'm going to use one of these white envelopes just because it's easier for you to see. And this envelope is just a hair over 4 inches. It's 4 1/16, and it is 5 3/8. So we need to have this piece of cardboard, the height of it, which is 5 3/8, we want it to be at least 1/8 of an inch bigger on each side. So we're going to go for the height of this piece of cardboard to be 5 5/8. So that's 1/8 of an inch bigger than on each side. It's 1/4 of an inch bigger than the envelope height over here. Now then, I have to measure with the square sides. You have to make sure you measure with the square sides. So we need 5 5/8. This is a square side and this is a square side. So now we have our 5 5/8, like so. Okay. Now, to get the length, we need to know how many envelopes we're going to put in here. Because in between each envelope, there is 1/8 of an inch. And then there's 1/8 of an inch on each side in the spine. And to know how big the spine has to be, we need to know how many envelopes. I'm going to put 6. That means that I need, oh dear, 1/8. Well, 6 times 1/8. It takes. That's not right, guys. Give me just a minute. Let me stop the video. Okay, guys. I'm sorry. Basically, we need the height of this cardboard to be 1/4 of an inch taller than any envelope you use. Then we need to measure the width and make 1/4 of an inch bigger. Multiply that by 2. So we have 4 1/4 plus 4 1/4. That's 8 1/2. Plus our spine needs to be 1 inch and 1/8. So we have 8 1/2 plus 1 and 1/8. That makes 9 and 5/8. This is the length we need here, is 9 and 5/8 inches. And it's basically that we need 1/4 of an inch bigger each direction. So our envelope, we have to have 1/4 inch taller, 1/4 inch wider, and then we add 1 inch and 1/8 for the spine. Now I'll put those measurements in the description, but it really doesn't matter what size your envelope is, because if you measure and then double, but I will write that down in the description so that that makes a little more sense. And I'm sorry that I flustered there. So we have 2 times the envelopes with 1/4 of an inch bigger top and bottom, 1/4 of an inch bigger on the side, and 1 inch and 1/8 in the middle for the spine. Then what we're going to do, I guess we better put that over there, is we're going to score this. And you want to score it before you go on, because if you don't, then things can get hard to score when you've put our other cover on. So we're going to score this 4 1/4 of an inch, 4 1/4 inches from one side, 4 1/4, and I'm using a scoreboard because I have a scoreboard. If you don't have a scoreboard, you're going to need to use the ruler and be careful to make sure that you get a good score line. And then I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to measure 4 1/4 from this edge, and that will give me 1 inch and 1/8 between them. I'm going to set this aside because we're going to need it in a few minutes, and we're going to fold this. And it doesn't hurt to use your bone folder and crease it. We're going to add another piece of cardstock to this so that it is a nice heavy cover. And what we're going to do is I have, and you can use anything you want, but this is another piece of cardstock that I had already painted with some, I used my tape roller, I used a little lid, I used a stencil. So it's painted and it's cardstock weight. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick this piece down and we're going to leave just a little hair of space around it. And we're doing this now because it needs to dry while we work on the rest of the book. And it just so happens that I have Yes Paste and I had not used it. It's one of those things I have but I haven't used, and I do like it. I really liked how it worked. I have this little tiny it's like a plastic card. It was a coupon that came in the mail, and it worked really well to spread this Yes Paste. But when you spread Yes Paste and you want to get it clear out to the edges, you need to make sure you can throw whatever's underneath there away because it is sticky and you can't clean it up fast enough to go on to the next thing you want to do. So just get, and you want to make it go all the way out to the edges. Now, Yes Paste is just a real sticky glue. You could use your Mod Podge. I don't think for this particular step, which is to glue two pieces of cardstock together, that doing that with a glue stick is going to work. So we've got nice thick coverage of Yes Paste, and I'll show you the front cover of the Yes Paste. See here, acid-free Yes Paste. It's just a really nice sticky glue. And then, like I said, you're going to want to have something here that you can throw away. And I am going to stick this. I know that I have a little white on this edge, so I'm going to stick it real close to the bottom, leaving myself just a little 1/16 of an inch of cardstock sticking out, and about 1/2 an inch or so in there. And I have another plastic card that I can use to just get that stuck down real well. Now I went ahead and did this on the big piece because it's easier to do it that way than to try to measure. And if you wanted to do your cover a different way, cover it with something else, you could. If you had scrapbook cardstock, that would work. I happen to have this piece of painted cardstock. Now we're going to trim this. I have my little cutty ruler, and I'm just going to leave myself about 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And if my head gets in your way, I apologize. And I did find that this was a little difficult to cut because of all the paint on the other side. Oh my, that's not straight. There we go. Okay. And we want to do the 1/16 of an inch just all the way around. Well, that was good. I just cut that way too shallow. So I guess we're going to trim it right even and not have our 1/16 of an inch on this one, on the top. Now you have to remember that when you make something by hand, first off, nobody other than the person who's watching your video is going to know that you didn't intend it to be that way. Besides, if it's not fun, why are we doing it? So the fact that it's off a little bit, I'm not going to worry about it. The fact that this one's not exactly the same as the other one, I am not going to worry about it. And for some unknown reason, I can't get that to cut through there. Probably paint on the other side, so I'm just going to use my scissors. Now remember, we've got 1/4 of an inch bigger in here, so we're not really in bad shape if we don't have that exact measurement top and bottom. I'll just get rid of this. Oh, put it up there. Now, we already scored this, but we want to go ahead and bend this right now before the glue dries. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our ruler right here on the score mark and bend this up a little bit. We're going to come back and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. It just helps for the cover to flex a little bit if it's bent when the glue's drying. We are putting 2 layers of relatively heavy cardstock in there. Okay, so now we're going to set this aside just like this and let it get dry. And we are going to take a piece of cardstock. Now what we're going to do now is to create all of these little spine pieces. And there are lots of ways to do a spine like this, but I wanted to have, this is going to have a lot of stuff. The intention is to put stuff in these envelopes. If you've only got one tab holding the envelope in, I was afraid that it might not hold on to it very well. So I put we're going to put a tab down each side. So what we need with this is it was an 8.5 by 11 piece of reasonably heavy cardstock, and I am going to cut a 1 1/8 inch piece strip like so. Now you would cut a whole bunch of strips so that you have a total. If you're putting in six envelopes, you need a total of 7 of these little pieces that we're making. But because I didn't want you to have to watch forever and ever to be bored, I have pre-made most of the strips. I'm going to take that 1 1/8 strip, and I am going to use my scoreboard. What I want to do is I want a 1/2 inch on each side of an 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to line this up and I'm going to count over 1/2 of an inch. Actually, it's marked 1/2 of an inch. And then I'm going to go over 1/8 of an inch. And I did score it twice just simply because that way I'm sure it's scored well. Then we're going to fold it on one side. We're going to use our bone folder. And we're going to fold it on the other side, on the other score mark. And I actually do this a couple of times. I do it back and forth because this is easier if it's folded back and forth. Okay, now I'm going to use this double-sided, oops, got stuff stuck into it. Double-sided, I think they call this red line tape. It's double-sided tape and it is very sticky. And I'm going to put it about a 1/16 or less of an inch from the cut edge, not from the folded edge. The fold is right here. See my 1/8 of an inch spot? Oops, let's flip it back out. Let me finish the... And then I'm going to flip this over. And this is the other cut edge. See my fold is in the middle. And I'm going to... And this is 1/4 inch tape, by the way. Okay, where'd it go? There it goes. And again, I am going to stick that just a hair off of the cut edge. Now then, you would think that we would want this to be just 1/4 of an inch and not have any gap at the back. But if you put, just a minute, I'm going to show you. If you put the folded piece right on the back, it doesn't allow your envelope to bend once you get it into your spine. We have to have a little bit of space between the back of the spine and the envelope so that it can move back and forth. So that's why we have a 1/2 an inch from the fold to the edge and why we use 1/4 inch score tape. The other thing I do is I take my bone folder and or my score tool, and I push that tape down real well, which it has a hair in it, just what I wanted. Now we're going to put the cut edges together, and we're going to clip all of these. Oh, this one might be a little long. I need to make sure it's the right length. What we want this to be is just a hair shorter than the envelope. You see how that is? It's just a little shorter than the envelope is tall. And so this piece that I just made might be a little bit long because it's barely a little bit too long. But now what we're going to do is we're going to put the cut edges together, and we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut an angle from the cut edge to that 1/8 of an inch folded edge. And we're going to do that on all of our pieces. And the reason for that is it allows the envelope to move more freely. It also allows for the flap of the envelope, I didn't do that one very well, to not get caught in this piece. And I should have done these all ahead of time, but you want 7 of these pieces. If you have 6 envelopes, you want 7 pieces. Let me put this knife away before I cut myself. There we go. All right, now we have our 6 envelopes, and I have painty ones here. Oh, I have more than 6. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and we're going to open their flaps. And the reason we're going to open their flaps, this is because you need to understand I made a boo-boo, so I had the flaps closed and I put the envelope on upside down. If you have the flaps open so that they're at the top, you won't have that problem. Now, this is not hard. It's just one of those things you have to think about when you go to do this. What we want to do, okay, why is it not making sense? See, sometimes you forget what you're doing. Yeah, I have to put the envelope on top of this. I'm going to shift this. Okay, so there's my 1/8 inch back. I'm going to shift this so that the piece I'm working with is on top and the 1/8 of an inch and the big piece is towards the back. And then I am going to undo this little piece and get rid of the top of the tape. And I'm going to do this more than one time so that you'll see what I'm doing, because it makes sense once you get it going. Now, this piece, if you can tell, is a little bit shorter, and we're going to put it on evenly, but we want 1/8 of an inch of the blue showing back there. So when we lay this down, and I'm afraid that I'm going to get my head in your way, we lay it down. We're going to center it, but we're going to leave this, not 1/8, but 1/16 of an inch along there. So see, when I open this up, it doesn't come right to the fold. There is a 1/16 of an inch piece sticking out. And then our little flap is stuck right along there. And I usually take this and rub it like that. Now we have to stick the next piece to our next envelope. Now remember what I said about having the envelopes open? It really helps for you to make sure that you don't turn one upside down like that if they're open. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this out so that my 1/8 of an inch spine piece is up. I wonder if maybe, let me try to bring this in just a little bit so you can see a little better. Okay, everything's a little crooked, but that's okay. Okay, so now I've pushed this out. My 1/8 of an inch spine piece is there, and I'm going to take off my sticky tape. Okay. And I'm going to flip this back over, and I'm going to center, oops, this, I'm doing it wrong. See here, you have to be able to see the blue, so you end up putting the envelope on top of your spine piece. And we just want to put it so that a little 1/16 of an inch of that blue spine piece sticks out. And you see, then we have 2 envelopes tucked together. But we have this 1/16 of an inch sticking out and 1/8 of an inch on the back. Oops. See, 1/16 of an inch sticking out, 1/8 of an inch on the back, and the 2 little tabs are stuck together. So now it gets a little easier, because now we're just going to line up this flat piece a lot of times with our other pieces. So I can just push that over there. I always hate this tape for getting it up. And if you want, now you can actually do this with the right side up, or with the envelope side up. My biggest problem is that I always tend to get my head in the way as far as you're being able to see. Maybe if I turn it around and do it this way. Can you see? I'm going to make sure that that fold and that fold line up. And see, now I have two folds right together, and when I put on my next envelope, I'll have it lined up just like that. And that's how I'm going to just go like that, push it away. Oh, heck. And I'm sorry, but I guess this will have to do. Oops, make sure your flaps are lined up. And then, like I said, make sure that you put this envelope on it a 1/16 away from the fold. Can you see that? Again, there's a little piece of the blue sticking out. And again, I go in and run this. I have to get my next little piece of spine ready. And I know this gets kind of boring, but if you push it down and lay it flat, then you can get your folded edges lined right up. And then, like I said, push it out so that that one's laid flat. And let's add the next one. And again, you want to make sure that you get your envelope about a 1/16 of an inch away from the folded edge. Okay. Of course, it doesn't want to come up. Why is that always the way? If you weren't watching, it would have come right up. Now, again, folded edge to folded edge. And we just sort of encased our envelope. Am I doing it right? I've got 4, I've got 2 more to go. I just didn't want to get 7 in there because my cover's not big enough to hold 7. When you add the envelopes between your little 1/8 inch spine pieces, you do add a little bit of thickness to each piece. Again, we're gonna fold this out. We're gonna put this just a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. apparently made an extra one. Guess. Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. You need, if you have 6 envelopes, you need 7 pieces for your spines. Because we're going to use 2 of these spine pieces to hold it into our cover. And I'm hoping that this is making sense to everybody. If it isn't, message me and I will try to make it, try to explain it better. Okay, so now we have an 1/8 of an inch piece between each set of 2 envelopes. I have 6 envelopes in here and I have 5 little spine pieces. But we need 2 more spine pieces. We need to have one on the front of this front envelope and one on the back, because they're helping to hold your envelopes into your little book. So we have 2 more little pieces. They're exactly the same as the others. Now, the spine piece, you can leave that not attached in your cover, but I like to attach the back of the spine as well, this part right here. So these are, they'll hold it, but they're not there for serious hold. They're there for a little bit of hold. Okay, and we just need to line that up so that it's even. And we're not going to take the sticky off of this right here. So now we have one on the front, and now we need one on the back. There. Okay, guys, you see what I did? I did one of these wrong. All of these go one way, and this one goes another. Are we going to worry about it? No, we're not. We will make it into some sort of decorative detail is what we will do. If it was upside down, that would upset me, but it's not upside down, it's just backwards. I love it when I make boo-boos when I'm making a video. I try to tell you about my boo-boos so that you don't make the same ones. Okay, and again, it helps if you push it out and flatten it down. Now you could use glue, but if you use glue, it's going to take a while for all the glue to set. Now you see here, this is the back of our spine. These are our signatures. This is our spine. And now our little cover should be just about ready to put together. Should be relatively dry, and you see how they're going to go right in there. But what we want to do is we want to decorate the inside of the cover just a little bit. I just thought it needed to be spruced up. So we know that this piece is 5 5/8, right? 5 5/8. By 4 1/4. So I have some fun painty paper. This is just, what shall I call this? This is copy paper. And I am just going to cut 2 4 1/4 inch pieces off. You could also use scrapbook paper. And then we want 5 5/8 to cover up the inside of the booklet. See here? Okay, so I need another 5 5/8 inch piece. Now, I happen to know why, but we're going to cut another little 1/2 inch piece off of here, or roughly 1/2 inch. It's not a real important exact thing, and I'll show you why in a minute. So we have this little strip. And then let's get this cutting board out of the way. Now, to hold this paper on the inside of our cover, it's not going to take a lot of abuse or anything. So this extreme glue stick works very nicely, and it also dries quickly so that we can have our paper on there and go on with the next step. You do want to get it clear out to the edge. And all over in the middle. And then we're just going to lay this in at the fold. It's just to decorate up the inside of our cover a little bit. And I like to take a little plastic card and squash this down. That's what I was afraid of. It didn't, for some reason, didn't feel like it was stuck right there. So we are going to just get a little more glue in there. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Really want to make sure you get your corners. Yeah. I didn't get it on quite straight, so that's another thing about glue stick. It lets you pick it up a little bit. Now, I had you cut this little piece. It's because I know that the top and bottom of this are not going to be covered up by the spine pieces that we have. So I am cutting those so I can put them right here and here. On the little cover. Oops, I moved it. Got enough glue stick under there that it moved. Don't want to do that. There we go. Alrighty. I'm going to give that a second to sit, and we are going to round our corners. I don't like, okay, corner rounder doesn't want to punch. Guess that's, oh, that's kind of heavy, I guess. Okay, just broke it. All right, guess we will not do that to that one. I do not know why. We'll just trim them off. I punched the other one just fine. This one maybe just a little more glue on the corner or something. So we just took a little bit off the corners. This one is not quite the same. We'll just trim it up. There we go. Okay, now we need to get our little envelopes into our book. Okay, what we're going to do is we have some of this 1/2 inch red line tape, and you want to make sure you got a nice square end. So that it doesn't hang over too much. And then you want to lay this in here, and let me see if I can hold it up for you. If you can tell, these little pieces are not the full length. They are roughly 1/4 of an inch shorter down here and up here. Let me put it in the middle. Can you see that? I'm hoping so. Anyways, I am going to mark with a pencil on both ends because we don't want the tape to come out here. We want the tape to stay in there. And I had a white pencil. Let me mark it with a white pencil so you all can see it. See here and here. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay in 2 pieces of this 1/2 inch tape right along the crease lines, but not past the little white mark we just made. And these should be side by side. If you overlap them, they're going to be a little hard to take apart. So side by side works best. And since this is roughly a 1/2 inch tape, that 1/8 of an inch and an 1/8, it fits 2 pieces in just fine with the score lines on each side. So here's this. Okay. And now we're going to take up this tape. Like so. Now we're not going to take these off just yet. We're going to leave them on, and we're going to flatten this book out like so. We're going to lay out this, and you see how we have this nice flat place back here? I'm going to take this folded edge and lay it right where the cover is scored. I'm going to lay that one down, and then I'm just going to lay them down all the way across until I get to this one, like so. Then what I I like to take this and just go in between each of the envelopes and run it up and down. And now we can stick our other little flappies down. Oops. Goodness gracious, I'm having a terrible time with this red tape. And this has turned into a nice long video. I'm sorry it took so long to do this. Okay, we're just going to lay this one down. And again, push it. We're going to swing around here to the back. And go like that. Okay, and let's close all of our little envelopes. Like I said, guys, I'm really sorry this took so long. I thought I had it prepared where it wouldn't be quite so boring. Now sometimes you have to bend your cover back and forth a little bit. Okay. And we have our little envelope book. Well, I know it's a long video, and I'm real sorry that it took so long to get this done, and but I'm really glad you came and watched it. I hope you like my videos. I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, I hope you will subscribe to my channel. And I think I want to decorate this a little bit more. Maybe put some closures on the envelopes, that kind of thing. So probably I'll finish them up tomorrow. Like I said, I'm really sorry that this was such a long video. It seems like it took quite a while to accomplish that. So anyways, have a great afternoon. Go make some art. And I am going to be doing this Use What I Have challenge for hopefully the month of September, where I'm going to be making at least one thing or trying to make something with what I have every day. So have a great afternoon. Go make some art.